What is it? No, you just printed out my personal log and wasted some paper. Yes. Or no. Not anymore. That project is dead.
She doesn't seem surprised to be recognized. Rather sad. Something passes over her face before she straightens her back.
I am Soona Luukkanen-Kilde, the former lead programmer of Fortress Accident and RSA radios. I have over 16 years of programming experience, and I'm proficient in both Vox and Orbis languages. If you're not here to hire me, I don't really know how I can help you.
Did she say over 16 years of experience? She must have started programming when she was still a teenager.
Nope. Yes. And? I don't care. I don't care about crap men.
Wow, she really doesn't. Not afraid, this one.
I brought them here. These are my machines. Please don't touch anything. I use the AR-1 as my RAIM prefect processing unit. RAIM prefect, my radio computer. Yes? You really don't know anything about radio computers, do you? All right. Well, all radio computers perform operations up on air. So in order to gain more processing power, you need to invest in a good antenna. On the front, the unified front of radio waves, licensed and controlled by Lintel in the East Insulindic region. It's all around us. That's what on air means.
Like love.
I guess it is. So far I've been quite satisfied with it. Martinez is an unstable region with bad coverage, and the operation has been surprisingly stable. But it's not the cheapest one on the market, so I wouldn't recommend it for your regular red tape operations. Fraser 1000 is a foolproof line for civilians. Anyway, you should do some research before you decide to buy anything. Ask around, compare the prices. There are many milieus dedicated to that sort of thing. I'm working. Could you just shh for a moment? Or get to the point. I really need to focus on something. They are connected to my RAIM prefect. Whatever you do, just please don't move them, okay? Thanks.
Short and terse. There you have it. Whatever she's using them for, they're hers.
Great. You really like those questions, don't you?
They're bloodshot. She really hasn't been getting much sleep lately, has she?
I'm conducting scientific research here. You can't throw me out. I'm looking for the location of a 2mm hole in the world.
Wait, what? She's looking for a disruption in the radio waves. That's what her personal log said. The lieutenant raises his brows, but doesn't say anything.
Exactly. What does it mean? Up to now, it has been impossible to say what it is because it's impossible to measure nothing. What do you think it is? What qualities does nothing have? How do you measure something that does not exist?
Easy. You measure it by the world around it.
Exactly. Very true. That's what I've been aiming for. That's why I have those basins. I've tried using hydro transducers to record the silence, to find out where it begins. But honestly, it's not progressing very well. Yes, that's what led me here. But I suspect it might be something a bit more complicated than that. Somewhere underneath those roof beams, I assume. There's this place at the back of the church, a place where all audible vibrations seem to decease. I've named it the Swallow, and the higher you go, the less you record.
The Pillar of Silence? Are you sure it's not just an architectural quirk?
Maybe, but it's oddly close to the physical coordinates of the data loss that led me to this place. I know. No, I don't. Because it's just trial and error, trying to locate the Swallow, the exact point in space. And I don't have a... You know what? It would be really helpful if you could just stop talking and let me work. Great. Thanks. What? I hate it.
I bet she hasn't even heard it.
Maybe I'd have to be on drugs to get it, but to a sober mind it just sounds like uninspired rug whipping. No idea what it has to do with either dancing or music. This is about those speed freaks in the tent, isn't it? I've got some news for you. It's not a nightclub they want to build here. Take a guess, why don't you? I can't believe they got you so easily. Go have another talk with those up-and-coming entrepreneurs, will you? Thanks.
Good luck. I'm not coming in there.
In white, silver, and apricot faience, the young mother of humanism stands above you. A crack runs across her body. She is impossibly tall, oval-faced and sad, a dark and radiant majesty. This is her innocence, Dolores Day. Cradled in her arms are a pair of glowing lungs, clearly visible from underneath her flowing dress. You should kneel. Your knees touch the floor. The floorboards are hard and cold. There you kneel among the snowdrifts, diffuse light falling on your hands from beyond the glass. The world is silent, but for the creaks and cracks of the massive wooden structure behind you. It covers you from the wind outside. The woman looks down at you kneeling. She towers among her followers, architects, laymen, courtiers. There is a sad smile on her lips and a glint in her green-blue eye of what? Compassion? Remorse? She acknowledges the passing of someone who is still alive. As that soft word passes through your mind, the lieutenant draws an X-shaped cross from shoulder to shoulder. Your fingertips touch your chest 4 times. Then you rise from your knees into the apricot-colored light of the window. Above you, the woman still smiles her distant smile, sundered by the crack in the glass.
The old woman in the village was right. This must be the DeLorean Church of Humanity in Martinez, or the Small Pinewood Church in some records. It's a minor landmark, not easy to find. Most maps misplace it. It was built not long after Revachol's founding, 300 or so years ago, by first-generation settlers.
On the coast of an uninhabited archipelago where only animals had roamed before, in the wild reeds.
There used to be 7 stave churches on the coast. Les Sept Sœurs, they call them, the 7 sisters. Only one remains. The rest were burnt in the revolution or used for building materials. We should be respectful here, although the building appears to be deserted. I do not believe we'll find anything connected to the lynching here. Something else, perhaps?
Respectful? Is the lieutenant a follower of DeLoreanism?
Yes, we all are. Her name, body, and rule are synonymous with humanism. The laws we enforce are DeLorean in origin. It's not spiritual, it's constitutional. The DeLorean system does not demand faith, only accordance.
Despite the damage you've done to yourself, the title appears lodged in your hippocampus. This is Her Innocence Dolores Day, the innocence of humanism, internationalism, and the welfare state. Perhaps the most famous human being ever to have lived. No amount of Commodore Red can wipe her sad smile from your brain thing. It has survived the deluge and haunts you still, and will haunt you forever as it haunts all men. The highest category of historic individual, an embodiment of the world spirit. More, an innocence is elected to office by the founding party, a precedent that has taken place a mere 6 times in the entirety of history. The legal system of the Real Belt is built to accommodate an authentic rule should it coincide with our time. An innocence is infallible. The decisions made by one are not decisions. They are inevitabilities. What would have happened anyway? Only accelerated, packed into decades instead of centuries. An innocence is a continuous, compressed event, a sacred human being. It is an honor and a glory to live when one is in office. No, we are alone. "300 years ago, in the wake of the discovery of this Isola, the Insulindian, by explorers from the continent of Muindi, she is, among other things, the innocence of inter-isolary travel and the connected world. Many things, you know she was a woman of the court, the wife of an influential Marchese, and eventually the principal advisor to Irene la Navigateur, Queen of Serene, modern-day Sir La Clé, also that she was gorgeous beyond beauty. Terribly, women of the court were expected to play both contract bridge and chess sufficiently well to prove an interesting challenge to a man. A simple grasp in matters of philosophy, theology, and science was encouraged. She was, by all means, a kept woman. She made the most of her position in the ante-DeLorean court, a court visited by the most prominent thinkers and artists of the day. In secret, she was becoming the era's preeminent philosopher of the state, a scalpel, a piercing gaze. She was an almost preternaturally magnetic and intelligent individual. To her contemporaries, she appeared out of time, a messenger from the future of the species. We all fell in love with her, head over heels. Even before she was declared an innocence, her influence was tremendous. It was on her advice that Irene la Navigateur sponsored a number of voyages into the Pale, a costly, often tragic endeavor, ultimately vindicated by the discovery of the new world, the piece of reality you're standing on. She was crowned 2 years after the first expedition returned, setting in motion what is widely considered the greatest era in history, the DeLorean era. Wow, indeed. When her innocence was declared, and the queen she had advised for years fell on her knees before her, she was so overcome with emotion that her lungs started glowing in her chest. Bystanders reported golden filaments lighting the already sunlit chamber around her, clearly visible beneath her dress. That is why the lungs are the symbol of love for the cultures of the Riel Belt. As did we all, the lands of the Mesk and the Occident, and even faraway Supra-Mwindi, altogether 21 of the 40 mundial nations of the time, immediately accepted Innocentic rule, even before her crowning. In a city called Advesperaskit in Vesper Messina, her homeland, the name of the city means evening comes, but it happened on a winter's morning with the canals frozen and slush falling out of the sky. She was dressed in a white and pearl dress on an emptied-out plaza with the crowd far away. Already her Theriers, the secret servicemen of the Innocents, were worried about an assassination attempt. Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and shoulders and hands were covered in a soft down of underfeathers. You know this well, very well. Midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by as her Theriers placed a white gold wreath on her head. The crowning was mostly witnessed by secret servicemen. One of the men in this secret service killed her 22 years later, a young man who had come to suspect that Dolores Day was not entirely human, but something else. Something that had walked in our midst, watching us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves, the man was reported to have screamed at the Innocents. Dolores Day was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times. The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace, and that sometimes, while on duty, he observed her forgetting to breathe for over 10 minutes. This inhuman quality was witnessed by many others as well, glowing lungs and all. It is commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology. Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or what remains of it. But although she's often considered to be the greatest human being to ever live, there was something ominous about Dolores Day, constantly surrounded by her Theriers. She was the most socially secluded and least self-aware of all the Innocences. Some modern thinkers would consider her a war criminal for the campaigns she waged against the Mesk state. And then there were the resettlement programs. The Mesk state tried to detach itself from Innocentic rule. Parts of the world were experiencing whiplash from accelerating into secularism. Her mandatory education programs and mass resettlement of upstream Marguerite were problematic as well. Dissenters were suppressed by a military force she called the Army of Humanity, suggesting those who fight against it are not part of humanity. She adored chess, yes, but also military war games. Dolores Day often holds a tiny tin soldier between her index finger and thumb in icons such as this. She was also blonde, the blondest woman you have ever seen, with green eyes the color of the Pacentic, mare interregnum. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role, which was to introduce Dolores Day to court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention, but feel when they think of her. This subtle terror is part of her iconography.
Lieutenant Yefreiter, you've stood there for over 5 minutes. What are you thinking of, if I may ask? Okay. It's just that you've been looking at that window for quite long now. And it's cold in here. This church, the coast in general, we shouldn't linger here. This isn't a good place to get lost in.
Hello again.
Hi again. So, how are things going? And? What happened? Oh man! Who is he? What did you think? Really? Huh. Interesting. What's he doing in the church?
No matter. Is he gonna be a problem?
Yeah, Noid is right. Let's get back to the point. What are we gonna do about him?
These guys will never catch him. You will never catch him. There's nothing to do.
I don't know, man. Doesn't it feel like a major hindrance to you? A spooky guy climbing around when all the guests are trying to have nice, friendly hyper time?
I guess it's not a massive problem, now that I think of it.
Everyone is welcome to dance till the morning light! Yeah!
Maybe. I guess we'll figure something out. Okay, but what about the other spooker? The one in Grandma's clothes? Did you see her? A programmer? That's odd. What was she like? Did you ask her about the nightclub? Come on, man. Who will you trust? A spooky programmer or us? We just want to make the world a better place.
Feel the love! Get down and feel it!
A half-hearted sell of something which does not seem worth buying.
You'll get there, believe me. When we've got our gear set up, things will be flowing and pumping. Anyway, now that it's settled, how did she seem? I mean, disposition-wise, about the dance club idea. Ja oder nein? Rocking it or dropping it?
What a pity! That's my favourite thing in the world! And she doesn't like it at all!
A shame. What can we do now? Do you see a way out of this jam? And into a laser-lit future of dance and unity?
Unity! Dance!
And you can't just evict her?
Look at you, Honour Man!
No, Noid. He's right. Maybe we've approached it the wrong way after all. I'm sure there's a workaround. We can make a deal not to bother her. If that's okay with her, we only want to get in the church and spread the joy and ecstasy of music.
The lines in the dark exist! Coexist!
At least Crabman seems like an advanced being. He's hard. He'll understand.
Yeah, he can do his climbing thing in the tower. And the programmer, does she like Nordic dance music?
Egghead cannot believe what you just said. It makes him pump the jam a little slower for a moment, but then he returns to the full swing of it.
No worries, we'll figure it out. If coexisting fails, you can always muscle her out, right? If it's all okay with you, what do you think? Excellent! Good luck, my friend. He's a quiet man, mostly communicates through music, and by being a master of ceremonies. Well, he's just kinda here. I don't really know how to communicate with him. Yeah, sometimes, when I stumble and find my way into his center, you have to hear a lot of hardcore to the mega first though.
The man smiles mysteriously, choosing to let the beat speak for itself. A number of things don't add up. Let's take a look. How about gather around, kids? The young speed freak puts down a busted capacitor and looks at you. The one with the large head seems very enthusiastic about whatever you have planned. Their would-be leader is less amused.
But you still are!
What happened? That's a real downer.
The young speed freak is silent.
I have no idea how you arrived at that conclusion, but it's wrong. Look, we even have speakers.
One speaker. They have one speaker.
What do you mean, friend? It's a one-speaker system. It's monodynamic. You wouldn't know the first thing about sound reproduction in anodic music. Other speaker.
This may be the brain damage talking, but you've definitely never heard of monodynamic or one-speaker systems.
What do you know about spinning tape? Nothing. I'm sorry, but there is no lab equipment and no drug ingredients.
He said it was for his nose. What more do you want?
Likely pseudoephedrine, almost exactly the shape of ephedrine. Ephedrine makes you happy, and so does pseudoephedrine.
And of all cellular-based life, what's your point, Lawbringer?
No shit. That's... Come on, that's... I meant to say, not true. What do you mean, do?
There's resignation in his voice. He's almost ready to drop the act. It wouldn't take a lot of pushing. The optimal way to go about this would be indifference. It begins by you telling him you don't care about any of this.
Really? You wanted to just ask me about something else?
thinks for a moment, then opens his mouth, but closes it again, then finally raises his hands.
Things are just way too hard for an entrepreneur in this city. It's not like we're not going to turn the church into the wickedest club in East Revachol.
Because we are! We totally are!
We just got to turn it into a speed lab first.
You know, to get our foot in the door.
Like I told you, spooky arseholes moved in while I was getting all this stuff together. A month ago, the place was empty, and now it's all spooked up. No, man. They're spooky, all right. It's just that they would also probably call the police if we started cooking speed in there.
But the sign was way off too. I couldn't feel the love at all.
So, what now?
This is it. Judgment time.
Yeah!
Respectable. I'm really feeling the science right about now.
I'm sure you'll figure something out. We can manage it with her if we get inside. Keep us updated about the situation. Maybe we can help somehow. Goodbye, officer.